5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. You bear heavy responsibilities these days.
Welcome to Stock Legends Radio Show, seeking answers, opinions, and the inside scoop, putting you in the front seat on Wall Street.
In today's market,
this is breaking news. Where is it going next?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stock Legends Radio Show. Please welcome to the radio show today the CEO of Halberd Corporation, currently trading under public ticker symbol HALB on the OTC Pink Sheets, Mr. John Maddox. John, welcome to the Stock Legends Radio Show.
Hey, Justin, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. John, for the listeners that might not be familiar with you and potentially your company today, why don't you tell us a little bit about your past and what brought you into the public segment and what your plans are for the future of your company, Halberd Corporation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually a certified public accountant by training. Always been involved in startups. And we actually had a startup back in 2007 called sellmybusiness.com. As you can imagine, it was bad timing, right? In 2008, the whole market collapsed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great name, though.
Yeah. So in 2009, in an attempt to raise money, we created Halberd Corporation as a way of trying to fund, sellmybusiness.com. So that's kind of where Halberd Corporation came from. And, Halberd Corporation's gone through a couple of business models, and there was a drone business that we tried to bring in there, which didn't work out after Sell My Business. And what our thought process has been is that, since there's not a lot of capital in the market, I think it made sense for us to maybe switch focus to being an incubator, because the people involved behind Halberd have a lot of experience working with startups that the market really needed something like us. So, and that's kind of how we got to where we're at.
So basically you look for a business where you like the methodology, you like the direction where they're going, but you think that you can fine tune it and maybe lead them in a better direction?
Yeah, and be a little more aggressive than a lot of the private equity that's out there now, that they got so many deals in front of them that it's difficult for a lot of companies that probably have potential to get noticed by them. And so Halberd is really designed to find those diamonds in the rough and help bring them to market, because we believe they have potential high-end value once they reach their maturity.
Why don't you tell us about a couple of these exciting projects that you currently have working? I know that there's been some recent breakthroughs with Aspire and ITAP. Why don't you give us a little bit of information on those and how you think that could affect the public company in the future?
Yeah, and like I said, with our first acquisition was this Crowd Connects Corporation. They have a website which is called aspire.com, and that's spelled ASPYRE.com. So kind of a technology spin on Aspire. And what they're doing, it's a virtual education portal. So it's video conferencing that actually has something the equivalent of a Dropbox component, and it also has a document management component all built in together. So the video conferencing is free. And you have the ability to do the social networking and connecting with friends and organizations. But you still got the ability to do if you want to do mentoring or teaching or tutoring, you have the ability to use the other tools, to be able to provide those services to people. So, somebody from the UK can be, tutoring someone in the United States. We really like the concept behind it.
For those that might not know, Dropbox is more of a file sharing, uploading type of system. So they're able to upload maybe zip files or work files, presentations, and then they're able to display them in front of a person and go through the actual workload while interacting in a video chat, or is that a message chat?
That's correct. On video conferencing, you can do it all in one place. You don't have to do it over different websites.
Now, is there a cost for using this service, or how is revenue created?
Well, the revenue is mainly created by, these add-ons of the storage and the video conferencing. I mean, not the video conferencing, I apologize. The document management piece. So those those have monthly subscriptions, which aren't very expensive. Obviously, as you can understand, for data storage, that's not very expensive per month. And then the document management's not very expensive. It might be a charge of $15 a month or something like that. But anyways. Yeah, but it's really a great tool, and right now there's really no limitations on the number of people that can use it. We're gonna have to see how well received it is in the public. But if you got an organization with 1,200 people, you technically can get on our website and present to all 1,200 people at one time.
Wow. So what would the limit be as far as a direct feed? Let's say someone was doing a presentation. Is there a limit as to how many people could watch that presentation?
We've not really set one right now. We realize that we're going to have to probably do something like that. One of the exciting things about Aspire is that there's already 3 large, nonprofits that want to get involved with the company. So even upon launch, the company should have a couple 100,000 people that are going to be using it pretty much within a couple weeks. It's going to take a little time to load all those people up. But Aspire is going to come, it's going to come to market with a number of people using it.
Great concept. It could easily go viral with a setup like that. Now, there was also another company that you've recently done some work with here. Now, their website is itapit.com. That's ITAPIT.com. Do you want to just give us a brief overview of why you thought that this specific company, you thought that could add some value to Halberd Corporation?
Yeah, ITAP has some very interesting technology, and its technology relates to something that most people like, beer. So
exactly.
Beer
lots
is
of professionals on beer.
It's something that's fun to talk about. It's more fun to drink it though than talk about it. But the technology that they've developed, and the person behind it is John Osborne. Is he has the ability to take a keg, and I really never knew that there was a lot of waste when it comes to draft beer, whether through theft or just through, just trying to get it from the keg itself to the tap. So they've developed a technology that can pretty much take 30% of waste down to 2% of waste. And in addition to saving that, it has all this technology that tracks just everything that comes out of the tap to help keep down on the theft.
So it actually has a theft prevention mechanism so you can tell exactly what's been poured.
That's correct, and they already have an order from Delaware North Companies, which are a huge hospitality and food service organization that does over $2 billion a year in annual revenue. So it's a large organization, and they're going to start out, initially putting their technology into the Boston Garden. So we really like the idea that they already had a contract in place.
Anybody that's been in any kind of bar business, you don't have to necessarily own the bar or establishment that serves a beer, even restaurants. A lot of the waste comes from the draft side of the business. Waitresses' friends come in, they give them some beers, and before you know it, you're running at a 50% loss in margin. So now, is this specific tap that kind of tracks these kind of things, is this integrated with a point of sale system, or how exactly does the mechanism produce a report? You know what,
John has had a chance to talk to me quite a bit about this. I don't quite understand the reporting 100%. But it's my understanding it will track, everything that comes through the tap.
Wow, that's
it'll tell you what time, what time, so you understand what time of the day where the volume's coming from. So,
what an innovative idea. Do you have any other projects that you're working on, or anything else that you'd like to share with us that you think could be exciting for the investors to learn and potentially keep their eye out for?
Yeah, we're looking at, we're getting ready to put a letter of intent out right now for another company. And like you said, it's since I am a public company, I try to be careful not to really be too specific. But there is a lot of opportunities out there, especially in marijuana. Mm-hmm. So marijuana is a pretty exciting space right now. We're talking to a couple of companies in that space. We're talking into some other companies that have synergies with that space. Whether they're companies that might be vaporizers or companies that might provide certain types of fertilizer that helps them to grow the marijuana. So we're kind of looking at that space pretty hard because it's an exciting space, and a lot of people view that as a soon to be big growing space. Yeah,
we think that the public and private sector of marijuana has the first wave hasn't even come in yet. It's so explosive, and the numbers speak for themselves. You look at these states and these companies that are getting into that side of the industry. They can't even touch the demand. You could be these guys come in, they think they're the biggest monkey in the room, and their supply's gone in 24 hours of everything they have. So there's a demand for that particular segment like we've possibly never even seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah, and we're open also to look at, other technology companies. We've talked, with a medical device company. I don't know if we're ever going to get that deal done. But like I said, we're mainly looking for these opportunities that, have the ability to grow if they just need a little bit of capital.
John, we're going to bring John Osborne on to speak a little bit more about the ITAP after this quick interview here. Anything that you'd like to say to the new investors that are possibly coming on board or that are listening today, that are interested in your company, where you'd like them to go to get more information, or anything that you could tell them to look forward to, or maybe you just want to welcome them on board?
Oh yeah, I definitely would like to, reach out to all the shareholders and say, we do appreciate you guys staying on board with us. I think one of the big things that we did that made all the shareholders happy is we did not do a reverse when we brought Aspire in. The goal is to create value for all the shareholders, and we're looking to bring more companies in. I mean, our goal would be to have 10 companies, at least at one time, that we're actively working with.
I think that would be rather exciting for the shareholders. It's a unique scenario when you have a company like this that's going in and looking for these other startup companies or technologies that they think will be significant. It's not always the same thing every day. You get to change, try new companies, new exciting things are always happening. So that spark kind of has the ability to stay there for the investors, which I think is very unique.
Yeah, and our goal is, like you said, it's difficult sometimes to get in early on some of these companies that take off. You never know who's really going to be that explosive one that just really goes to the top. But the chance that, these shareholders have an opportunity to get in on the ground floor, I think that's what makes, what Halberd's doing is exciting. Because when we do spin a company out, our goal is to, to issue some of those shares directly to the shareholders so they will have direct ownership in them.
John, it's been great having you on the Stock Legends radio show. We're going to also invite John Osborne to come on next to speak a little bit more about this functionality within the ITAP system that we spoke briefly about earlier. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. For the investors that are listening today that want to do more research on public ticker symbol HALB, you can also find their website under halberdcorporation.com. That's HALBERD corporation.com. We suggest you go there and grab some information about the company. And John, it's been fantastic having you on the radio show today. We also want to commend you for coming on. We think keeping an open line of communication open to the investors is very important. And you suck us out, and we're excited to come on today. So we'd like to thank you for coming on to the Stock Legends radio show.
Oh, anytime, Justin. Appreciate you having me on.
It's been great, John. Thanks.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com, then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Okay, folks, we're back from that quick radio break. Now we have with us the CEO of ITAP Incorporated, who has the unique technology that we spoke about earlier in regards to the beer taps. John Osborne, welcome to the Stock Legends radio show.
Hi, Justin.
It's a pleasure having you today. Now, we were speaking with John Maddox earlier today about your technology, and this is actually a very unique technology and a well-needed technology. Anybody that's been in the restaurant or bar business knows the amount of loss that can come from as far as losing revenue from waitresses giving out free drinks or things of this nature. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this technology and how you thought of it and what your plans are for the future of the company?
Interesting question. Nobody has asked me how I thought of it in a long time. Some number of years ago, I was actually having a drink at a bar in Chicago with my brother, draft beer, and I asked the guy behind the bar, how do you keep track of those sales? I noticed that he just pours it into a glass and rings it up in most cases, sometimes not. And basically told me, well, actually, we don't really keep track of it. And I thought that was kind of interesting in a world of accountability. So I thought I'd check this out a little bit farther, look deeper into it. And it turned out that, it's an industry that just really has no accountability. Most of the figures and numbers are just guesses. People draw results from yields that they make up or imaginary, things along those lines. And as I went farther and deeper into it, I found out there's just a huge business that was just losing tremendous numbers of dollars in revenue every year to either waste, pilferage. I wouldn't even consider the waitresses giving a drink away a bad deal at that point. A very low percentage on that end of it. And they should continue to give those drinks away because that's probably a good thing. Probably helps them sell more beer. But from our end of it, we looked at from the mom and pop restaurants all the way into the large concession operations, which is where we really found the huge losses because of the volumes that they were doing there at stadiums and arenas and facilities like that. And so with my first system that I built back in the early 90s, we targeted from TGI Fridays restaurants, racetracks, military institutions, to stadiums and arenas along that line in Chicago. My first stadium was the old Chicago Stadium where the Bulls played before they moved across the street to the United Center. And I also put a system in the United Center too. And we started to have a lot of success in that stadium and arena business because we found that their losses every year were somewhere between $1 million and $2 million a year. Actually finding out that their keg beer, the hard part is the fact that it's hard to track. It's almost impossible to track. So you don't know what is the waste versus what is the pilferage. In most cases, waste isn't such a bad deal because it's the price of the keg going down the drain. Obviously, it's something they don't want to lose because typically they're losing in a stadium that does 20,000 kegs a year beer sales. They typically lose about 4,000 kegs to something, whether waste, pilferage. Right.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I know this because after putting systems in, I've gone back and done 16,000 kegs and matched the number of sales they had the year before. Nobody wants to, the most difficult part is nobody wants to admit or acknowledge what the pilferage end of it is. And unfortunately, that's a very substantial number because what you're looking at today now, back a few years ago, was $4.50 a beer. Now you can go to the local stadiums that play ballparks, and you can see that it's $8 and $9, even $10 a beer in some places. So if that money's not making it to the cash register and you've got 5% losses in that area, it's just a huge, huge number. And what we do with the ITAP is the original idea of what I saw when I was sitting at that bar in Chicago was track it, account for it. And we do that by portion controlling the beers. So we can go into a facility like we just sold at TD Garden and set up a system. And they have 16-ounce cups, and they want to put 15 and a half ounces in a cup, which before manually is impossible to do. It's either a little more, a little less, usually a little more. And we can actually pour 15.5 ounces into a 16-ounce cup over and over and over again for every cup that's being poured out of that keg. In fact, our numbers were so accurate for them there that we were doing above 100%. And I say that because the numbers that they were able to achieve, they couldn't even consider those numbers as 100% because they weren't able to achieve those.
Yeah, I mean, you get a different size head. You get, right. I mean, there's no constant variable.
Right. So immediately they saw, how dramatic and what a dramatic change it was in the fact that they could actually go live and look at this on their computer and find out exactly what their sales were at the time those sales were being made. They could see how many cups were being poured, how many ounces were poured, what stand they were being poured at, who the operator was that was pouring these beers. They could take a look and see how much beer was left in the keg at the end of the night. And these are big deals in stadium environments because it's been like this for 100 years now. It's kind of great. But in the old days, or I guess that the old days is the same for everybody who doesn't have an ITAP today, is that if you, let's say the United Center in Chicago, they had 359 kegs or beer lines, each one with a keg attached to it. And to determine how much beer they needed to reorder for the next day or the next event, they actually have some guy that would walk around and shake the keg. And
imagine that.
That was it. That was your guesstimate as to how many kegs to order the next day and for which lines they would go on. It was really labor intensive, cost intensive. Obviously, there's a quality control because sometimes you get too many kegs in and they sit out in the hallway and they get hot and you can't use them, or you don't get enough kegs in and they don't have beers at the lines. So the great thing about the ITAP is it actually tells us how much beer is left in a keg at the end of the evening. So we know exactly, in fact, even take it one step farther, we do what's an inventory entry control system. So we can actually order those new kegs for them the next day. So if they need a new keg, it'll tell them exactly when, and it can order them for them. So they have complete, and it's an industry right now so that, there wasn't a lot of real control in any aspect of it. So what we try to do is a total approach. We try to make sure the cooler has the right temperatures, the cooler doors are shut, the beer is pouring at a certain temperature, make sure it's pouring at the right temperature, that the kegs have been ordered, they're in place to go. So it's not just we want to pour a beer, we become a system, we become a complete system for the facility.
It's like a smart bar.
Yeah, it is. It actually is.
That's awesome. That's very cool. And data is so powerful. A lot of people, especially in something like this, where they've never actually had the exact data, when you can sit and look at the data, you might think, hey, you know what, this stand's doing better than this stand, and what's the different variables? Is it because it's closer to the X, it's closer to this, and you can start actually peeling over those hard facts, which from a business perspective gives you a lot of power to make things better, where previously the technology just didn't exist.
Absolutely. It becomes a marketing tool for you as well as everything else, because it's telling you what beers you're selling at what time of day and what location. So obviously it helps everything that you're doing within that facility be able to run it better for you, make better profits for your company. One of the new parts of our system is what's called smart card capability, so that you don't have to have any cash involved at all. You just scan your card when you walk up to have a beer poured, and it'll automatically pour the beer for you. We have something that we'll be coming out with shortly called the iTap Beer Wall. It basically consists of a number of iTaps. It can be from 1 to 100 that are attached to kegs on the other side of a wall. And this way you only need one operator, somebody to check IDs or cards when they walk in. They can scan a smart card, and they can therefore pour their own beers, whichever brand they want, and walk out. So it eliminates a lot of different controllers, a lot of different operators being involved with the pouring of the beer. Makes it easy and accessible for the customer who's at a facility to get in and have his beer without waiting in long lines. But this is just some of the futuristic things we have. It's already built into our system, and hopefully we'll be doing a iTap beer wall very soon.
Well, that's amazing, because if you think about the college towns, now I live in a college town, and when there's an event going on, the bars and then the establishments in the area will literally explode with people, to the point to where if I'm in a bar and I'm having a good time, if I'm with friends, it might take me 2 hours, an hour and a half to even get another beer. I mean, there literally be that many people in the bar. So if there was a big self-serve wall, I mean, think of the amount of profit that the establishments would be able to turn over and how quick they'd be able to turn them over. It would literally eliminate the waiting around concept. Now, how long until a system like this pays for itself in an establishment?
I can tell you this: we did a test for Fenway Park with our demo units, our prototypes, before we got into the industry or into the production units. And basically, I can tell you that in a place like Fenway Park, you can put our units in, and if you were to consider their beer revenue that took place between the first game and a half, that would pay for the system.
Wow, the first game and a half.
Yeah, that's about 300 units, 300 iTap units, because they do a lot of beer in Fenway Park.
Oh, that's unbelievable. So now I heard you say earlier, and I kind of caught one of it. Now this is a self-serve system.
Well, no. This is
okay.
Right now, you can use it as a self-serve system. It can certainly be that. But right now, basically, we target the concession operators. So when you go to the ballpark where you're standing in line to get your hot dog, that's the guy that has it. Primarily what these do right now is replace all the manual valves that are out there. As simply as we unthread a manual valve, we thread a iTap onto the system, we plug it in, and we're up and ready to go.
This is a very neat technology. I mean, do you have what are your plans for the future? Do you have any exciting deals or target markets that you're looking to get into, or even, I see TGI Fridays, Chicago Stadium, Georgia Dome, Pro Player Stadium. I mean, Disney World. I mean, you're in a lot of
let's back up. I don't want to get in front of us on this. Those are facilities that I did with my original tap system.
Okay.
My first one in the 90s. This is a brand new technology that I just spent the last 6 years developing and working on, and we've just brought it out with our first sale to TD Garden in Boston.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, so I have a lot of history in it. I have a lot of knowledge of the industry, and I saw a certain need for it to come back and do the job that I hadn't finished the first time, and the industry hadn't changed at all, and the technology has changed significantly over the last 15 years. And it was just the opportunity. We were just waiting, banging me on the head, get back in here and do this again. And so it's great to be back in that industry. It's a huge, huge market. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. I do have a number of new things that we are working on, and a number of new customers that we are talking to. But I'm not sure I want to give those away just yet.
Right. Don't give us the golden egg yet. But we'll be excited and we'll be listening for it. Now, do you still have the contacts at these locations that you'd previously done business with?
a lot of them have changed over the years, but most of them are still in the business. So that's always been a plus for me too. I can still pick up the phone and call people that I worked with in the past, and they're more than happy to have me come out and show them the new product and start discussing it. So the doors are readily available and open for me to come into. So I'm happy with that.
This is a very exciting venture for the investors, and the technology speaks for itself. This is a much-needed technology. It's been great having you on the radio show, John. We'd love to welcome you back to the Stock Legends radio show at any point in time to keep us up to date with what's going on with the company and what exciting new things you have going on. For the investors that want to take a look at this technology right now, we want you to go to www.itapit.com and take a look at some of the videos. Any investors or anybody else, feel free to click the invest or the contact button, get some more information, and maybe you can even speak to John himself. John, it's been our pleasure having you on the radio show today.
Actually, it was my pleasure, and anytime you want to talk, I'm available.
That sounds great. We'll look forward to it.